G'day trendsetters, I'm John with Gravel Cyclist, coming to you today with a very special featured bike. This is a custom-made machine hailing from Michigan in the United States. Namely, it's a stainless steel Quiring Cycles machine that was built way back in 2013, custom ordered by one of my good friends with the purpose of crushing gravel. This bike features huge tyre clearance, geometry optimized for gravel, so there's no crazy long mountain bike like top tubes, 9er RDO carbon fork, and a whole lot more. What's really interesting about this bike is Scott Quiring of Quiring Cycles, who built the bike for my friend, thought the whole idea was kind of crazy because at the time my friend wanted a bike with clearance for 2-inch tyres and road gearing. This was at a time before there was true gravel bikes on the market, and most of us, myself included, were running cyclocross bikes for these early ride and race events. In fact, around the same time this bike was created, I built a Lenski titanium drop bar mountain bike, which had its own set of compromises, whereas this bike has no compromises whatsoever. This bike and the Lenski I just mentioned came to fruition because of events such as Hilly Billy Roubaix in West Virginia and Three Peaks USA in North Carolina. These crazy events really pushed the limits of cyclocross bikes at the time, and we figured that we needed bikes with bigger tyres to make the descents alone a whole lot safer. The Three Peaks USA event is very similar in nature to today's Grind Giro, but arguably a bit crazier. I mentioned earlier, this frame is built from Reynolds stainless steel tubing, namely the 931 variant, which means no rust, and also it's quite light. In fact, this bike weighs about 21.5 pounds with pedals, bottle cages, etc. So that's the intro covered. Let's take a closer look. Starting at the front of the bike, you've got a 9er RDO all carbon fork, which as you can see has a ton of tyre clearance. The wheel set is the venerable American Classic Race 29er, which unfortunately they are no longer made, but a fantastic wheel set, very light. And looking at the front tyre, that is a Thunderbird by Schwalbe in 2.1 inches. And on the rear, you've got an S-Works Renegade in 29 by 1.8, so plenty of rubber. My friend, who is an aficionado of the 2x drivetrain like myself, also loves Di2. In fact, he's had his life ruined by Di2, as have I. And this bike has a very interesting mix of Di2. It features the original Shimano XTR Di2 derailleurs, and on the front end of the bike you've got the original Shimano RS685 hydraulic shifters, so it's kind of a hybrid setup. The frame features an English thread bottom bracket, and he's got an Ultegra crankset, 11-speed, with 46-34 chain rings, and it's paired to an 11-40 XTR cassette. You might notice the battery for the Di2 system is external. My friend prefers the external battery, and I have to say that is the best kind. There's no issues with corrosion, which has happened in the past with the Di2 battery on occasion, so it's very easy to charge. And you really should pay attention at the front end to his junction box setup, which is very special. There was no room really to position the junction box beneath the stem, so he simply zip tied it to the rear brake housing. That's what you call a dodgy fix. This bike has quite a long wheelbase. I'm not sure 100% what it is. If I know, I'll overlay it in the video here. But at the back end of the bike, he's got a 9er RDO seat post, which is renowned for being very comfortable, has a good amount of flex. But with this bike having such voluminous tyres and long wheelbase, it is extremely comfortable over the long haul, and it flies like a rocket on descents. In fact, I might have some footage of this bike, which I'll overlay in this video. You might notice the pedals, they're unusual. They're the Time Attack Carbon. You don't see those too often. A great departure from the world of Shimano SPD. Another thing to notice on the rear end of the bike is the quick release interface. This bike was at a time when through axles were in their infancy, and he didn't have any wheels set up for through axles, so he spec'd the rear end with a regular quick release. Now that has not held the bike back. He's never lost a wheel or anything like that. It's been very stable, etc., but it harkens back to a time when everybody ran regular quick releases. And bringing this fine machine to a halt is the Shimano RS685 series brakes, which were pretty non-specific. There was no GRX or Ultegra disc brakes at that time. And on the front wheel, a very big rotor, 180 millimeters for mega stopping power, and on the rear wheel, 160 millimeters. All of the cables on this bike are run externally for ease of maintenance, including Di2. You could easily drill the frame out, but This bike was about reliability, accessibility, and dependability. This bike does not sit around just looking pretty. It's been raced at events such as Southern Cross in Dahlonega, Georgia, Hilly Billy Roubaix in West Virginia, and Pisgah Monster Cross, which is very close to Asheville. All of those events really have a focus on steep climbs and very tricky descents, where this bike just comes into its own. Well, I hope you found this pioneering bike, as I like to think of it, somewhat interesting. Bikes have changed considerably in the past 5 years, and this bike, like I mentioned earlier, was way ahead of its time and built purely out of necessity to have a safe experience on the road less traveled. If you have a bike that you think is worthy of being featured on the Gravel Cyclist website, don't hesitate to drop me a line via the contact page. See the link below. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Gravel Cyclist YouTube channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos as they appear on the channel. I'll see you in the next video.